They say a person's true character is revealed in times of grief. I never believed it until my in-law's will was read, and my husband's own brother left us with nothing but the key to a crumbling barn. Little did we know, that rusty key would unlock a secret that would change our lives forever. The pain of losing my husband's parents in a tragic car accident was a deep, unfillable void. My husband, Leo, a gentle and devoted son, was shattered. I'd been their daughter-in-law for 3 years, and they had treated me as their own. They were simple farmers, hard-working people with immense hearts. During the funeral, I managed everything while Leo was lost in his grief. His older brother, Victor, and his wife, Isabel, were there, but they behaved more like guests than family. Victor stood with his arms crossed, directing others, while Isabel complained about everything from the temperature of the coffee to the quality of the food. I bit my tongue, telling myself it was a time for mourning, not conflict. The day the will was read, the air in the old lawyer's office was thick with tension. Leo sat beside me, his hands cold as ice. Across from us, Victor lounged in his chair with a cold, calculating look, while Isabel fidgeted impatiently. The lawyer began to read. He spoke of my in-laws' hard work and their wish for their sons to love and support one another. Then came the division of assets. To my eldest son, Victor, the lawyer read, I bequeath the family home in the town center, the 2 plots of land bordering the main road, and the entirety of my savings, totaling 3 million euros. The room spun. 3 million euros. The house. The land it was their entire life's work. What about Leo? My husband's face went pale. Isabel couldn't hide a triumphant smirk. The lawyer cleared his throat, a hint of pity in his voice. To my second son, Leo, my wife and I leave the old barn at the edge of the village and all of its current contents. The barn. It was a dilapidated shed used to store old farm tools and hay, abandoned for years. It was worthless. Giving Leo the barn was the same as throwing him out with nothing. How could his parents, who had always been so fair and loving, make such a cruel decision? As we left, Victor clapped Leo on the shoulder with false sympathy. Don't be upset, little brother. I'm sure father had his reasons. At least you have a piece of land to your name. Just clean it up and you'll have a place to live. Isabel chimed in. That's right. It's better than nothing. You two could work your whole lives and never afford your own land. They walked away, leaving us in the empty room with a rusty key and a profound sense of betrayal. That evening, when we returned to the house we no longer had a right to call home, Isabel was waiting. Look who's back, she sneered. I thought you'd be too ashamed to show your faces. Victor emerged from inside. What are you still doing here? This house is mine now. The will was clear. I have no obligation to house freeloaders. The word freeloaders struck my husband like a physical blow. I helped him to a bench as Isabel continued her tirade. You've been living off his parents for 3 years. The free ride is over. She then turned to Leo with a sickeningly sweet tone. I'll be generous and let you stay in the servants' quarters for 1 night. Be gone by morning. The next morning, I went to our old room to pack and found Isabel already there, tossing our belongings onto the balcony. What are you doing? I cried. She just laughed and threw our clothes, books, and keepsakes over the railing. They scattered across the courtyard like rubbish. There's your stuff, she said with a sneer. Now pick it up and get out. I don't want your junk dirtying my house. I looked down and saw Leo, silently picking up each item. My anger dissolved into a deep ache for him. I walked past Isabel without a word and joined my husband. We calmly folded our clothes, packed our 2 suitcases, and walked away from that house without looking back. We found a cheap, damp room in a dark alley, barely 10 square meters. It smelled of mold, with water-stained walls and a single, rickety iron bed. For months, Leo was a ghost. He barely ate or spoke, consumed by the belief that he was a failure his parents hadn't trusted. It's my fault, Clara, he'd whisper at night. I've dragged you into this misery. I held him and tried to be strong. It's not your fault. We're together and that's all that matters. I found work at a large textile factory, standing at a machine for 12 hours a day. At night, I brought extra work home, sewing until my fingers were raw and my back ached. Leo eventually found work as a laborer on construction sites, coming home exhausted, his hands blistered. We were barely surviving. 6 months passed. Then, the factory I worked for went bankrupt, and the owner vanished without paying his workers. Our main source of income was gone. Our landlord gave us 1 week to pay the rent or be evicted. We were at rock bottom. That night, in our dark, bare room, Leo's voice trembled. Maybe I should go ask Victor for a loan. No, I said firmly. We will never beg them for anything. It was then that a thought sparked in my mind. The barn. It was a symbol of our humiliation, but it was all we had left. Leo, I said gently, tomorrow we're going back to the village. Why? He asked, his voice full of pain. There's nothing for us there. We're going to our barn, I replied. It's the last thing your parents gave us. We can't just let it rot. We'll clean it out. Maybe there are old tools, scrap metal, anything we can sell. It's better than waiting to be thrown onto the street. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded. All right, tomorrow we'll go. The barn was even more derelict than I remembered. The tin roof was rusted through, the brick walls were covered in moss, and weeds choked the entrance. Leo took a deep breath, inserted the rusty key into the lock, and turned. The door creaked open, releasing a thick, musty smell of decay and forgotten time. Inside was a chaotic mess of rusted tools, rotten sacks, and cobweb-covered furniture. Our last flicker of hope began to die. We started clearing the junk, sweat and dust plastering our faces. It felt pointless. As I pulled away the last of some hardened fertilizer sacks in a dark corner, I noticed something strange. A section of the back wall, about a meter square, was plastered over, unlike the bare brick of the rest of the barn. Curious, I tapped on it. The top sounded solid, but when I tapped near the floor, the sound was hollow. Leo, come look at this, I yelled. He rushed over. When he heard the hollow sound, his eyes widened in disbelief. We found an old crowbar and started prying at the plaster. It crumbled away, revealing a section of bricks that had been loosely stacked without mortar. We removed them one by one, uncovering a dark, deep cavity. A cool, ancient scent of earth and precious wood wafted out. My phone's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing a heavy, dark wooden chest with an old brass lock. Our hearts pounded. It was incredibly heavy, but together we managed to drag it out into the light. The lock was corroded shut. With no other choice, Leo used the crowbar to force it open. Crack. The old brass lock broke apart. He lifted the heavy lid. Inside, lying on a bed of faded red velvet, were rows of gold bars. Next to them lay exquisite jewelry, a heavy gold necklace, bracelets, and rings sparkling with gemstones. I leaned against the wall, my legs too weak to stand. Tears streamed down my face. Leo stumbled backward and sank to the floor, staring in shock. Is this real? He whispered, reaching out a trembling hand to touch a gold bar. It's real. After the initial shock faded, we found a small, oilskin-wrapped package at the bottom of the chest. Inside was a bank book and a sealed, yellowed envelope. I opened the bank book first. The account holder's name was Leo. The balance made me gasp. 5 million euros. Leo took the book, his hands shaking. Tears of relief, gratitude, and overwhelming love for his parents streamed down his face. He finally understood. They had never abandoned him. Then, he opened the letter. It was from his father. His voice choked with emotion as he read it aloud. My dear Leo and Clara, if you are reading this, we are no longer with you. Do not grieve too much. We write this to explain the will that must have caused you so much pain. Please forgive us. We knew Victor's nature. He is clever, but his greed is a bottomless pit. If we had divided our assets equally, he would have tormented you until he had taken your share as well. We could not bear to see our family torn apart by money. So, we made a difficult choice. We left him all the visible assets, the house, the land to satisfy his greed and leave you in peace. The true inheritance, our life savings, we have hidden here for you. We knew you, our kind and hardworking son, would never scorn this old barn. We trusted that one day, when times were hardest, you would find your way back here. This chest contains all the gold and jewelry we saved, along with the money from selling your grandparents' old land. Use this capital to build a new life. But you must be discreet. Never let Victor know of this. A greedy man will stop at nothing. Live happily, live kindly, and love each other. That is the most precious inheritance of all. With all our love, Father. We held each other and wept, not with sorrow, but with the profound understanding of his parents' sacrifice. They had orchestrated this entire painful charade to protect us. This treasure wasn't just gold and money. It was a testament to their love, wisdom, and foresight. We were not abandoned. We had been protected in the most extraordinary way. With the truth finally revealed, a new and heavy responsibility settled upon us. In the dim light of the barn, holding the letter, we made a pact. We would honor his father's last wish. We would remain silent. We carefully placed the chest back into its hiding spot and sealed the wall, making everything look as it had before. The bank book and the letter were the only things I took with me, hidden securely. We returned to the city with a few worthless pieces of scrap metal as a cover story for our trip. Back in our squalid room, life continued as before. Leo went back to the construction site, and I took on small sewing jobs. We continued to live in poverty, but our spirits were transformed. The hardship no longer felt like a punishment, but a test of our resolve. At night, instead of crying, I secretly used my old phone to study. I read about business management, financial planning, and the textile market. His parents had given us the capital. It was our duty to use it wisely. Meanwhile, just as his father had predicted, Victor's life spiraled out of control. He quit his job and began living a life of reckless extravagance. He fell in with a bad crowd who flattered him while draining his finances on phantom real estate projects and gambling. The 3 million euros vanished quickly. He sold the first plot of land, then the second. Soon loan sharks were knocking on his door. His life with Isabel became a living hell of arguments and fear. In his desperation, having sold everything else, he remembered the one asset he had so casually tossed to his brother, the old barn. As for us, we had begun our own silent rise. I used a small portion of the savings to lease a workshop in an industrial park and bought several second-hand sewing machines. Leo quit his laboring job and threw himself into helping me, handling the heavy lifting and repairs. We named our workshop Hope. We started small, taking on orders from local shops. I insisted on perfection, ensuring every seam was strong and every delivery on time. Our reputation for quality and reliability grew. Soon orders were flooding in. We expanded from 5 machines to 20, hired more workers, and started designing our own clothing line. All the while, we maintained our cover. To our neighbors, we were still the poor couple struggling to make ends meet. It was the perfect disguise. After a year and a half, with the business thriving, we finally bought a home, a modest house with a small garden in a quiet, distant suburb. We moved in without any fanfare, our only celebration, a quiet moment of thanks at the small altar we set up for Leo's parents. One evening, as we returned home from the workshop, a haggard figure emerged from the shadows. It was Victor. He was gaunt and unshaven, his clothes dirty. The arrogant man of 2 years ago was gone, replaced by someone who looked like a beggar. Leo froze. Despite everything, the sight of his brother in such a state pained him. "Leo, you have to help me," Victor pleaded, grabbing his arm. "They'll kill me. I need 500,000 euros within a week." He spun a tale of being cheated by business partners, never once mentioning his gambling addiction. Then he got to the point. "Sell the barn, Leo. Give me the money. When I get back on my feet, I'll pay you back double." I almost laughed at the audacity. Even now, there was no apology, no remorse. He acted as if it were our duty to save him. Leo was speechless. Victor, mistaking his silence for hesitation, became aggressive. "What are you thinking about? That worthless shed? My life is on the line." It was our parents' property. You have a responsibility to this family. That was the breaking point. The hypocrisy was too much. For the first time in his life, Leo looked his brother straight in the eye, his voice cold and hard as steel. "No," he said, "I will not sell." Victor was stunned. "What did you say? You dare defy me?" "I said no," Leo repeated, his voice gaining strength. "That barn is the only thing our parents left for me and my wife. The day you threw us out of our home, you lost the right to call yourself my brother." Enraged, Victor lunged at Leo, fist raised. I stepped between them. "What right do you have to judge him?" I asked calmly. Then, I took out my phone and showed him a picture of our bustling workshop. While you were gambling away our parents' legacy, we were rebuilding our lives from nothing. Finally, I pulled out the folded, yellowed letter. "And this," I said, my voice ringing through the quiet street, "is the truth." I read the letter aloud. Every word about their father's love, Victor's greed, the hidden treasure hung in the air. The few neighbors who had come out to watch stood in stunned silence. Victor's face went from red with rage to white with shock. "No, it can't be," he stammered. "The old man. He tricked me. The gold. 5 million. He collapsed, not in remorse, but in the agony of realizing the fortune he had thrown away. He began to curse his dead parents, to curse us, blaming everyone but himself. My husband and I stood together. The weight of 2 years of pain and silence finally lifted. The truth had shattered Victor. Back in our house, Isabel begged us for the 500,000 euros to pay off the loan sharks. Leo looked at me, his eyes torn between pity and anger. He couldn't let his brother die, but I knew that kindness without boundaries would only be taken advantage of again. "All right," I said, looking directly at Victor. "We will help you, but only this once, and with conditions." They agreed immediately. The next day, at a lawyer's office, we gave Victor the 500,000 euros. In return, he signed a legally binding document stating that he would never again contact us or make any claims on our family or assets. He took the money without a word of thanks and left. We never saw him again, though we heard whispers from the village. After paying his debts, he fell back into his old ways. Isabel left him. The bank eventually foreclosed on the family home. He had lost everything. Our lives, however, had truly begun. Our company flourished. Leo, free from the shadow of his brother, became a confident and capable business partner. We lived a comfortable but simple life, never forgetting the hardship that had forged us. We started a charity to help others facing difficult times, knowing all too well the sting of desperation. The greatest inheritance our parents left us wasn't in a hidden chest. It was the lessons embedded in their painful choice. They taught us that wealth without character is a poison, and that true strength is built not in times of ease, but in the silent, determined struggle against adversity. Forgiveness, we learned, isn't about absolving the other person. It's about freeing yourself. We helped Victor not because he deserved it, but because our own peace required it. We drew a line, protected our future, and finally, truly, let go of the past.